Okay, thank you so very much. And thank you so much for all these wonderful presentations. I'm quite thrilled about the presentation we just heard, because my presentation will be basically about the same thing in a way, but moving away the focus from popular music studies towards Western art music. And we heard some thoughts about the role of the score, which is, of course, in Western art music especially important in a way. So I'd like to do a short presentation about a project proposal. It's nothing which I could present results for. It's a proposal which we are just working on right now, and we'd like to do it in collaboration together with GHT, and we're very glad that we got the opportunity to present it here. Christian Hofer and Klaus-Peter Gallenmüller said, come to Surrey, talk to the people, let's see what you guys, if I may say so, could get out of it. So I really don't want to talk too much, but to hear your thoughts on this proposal. So it's about some thoughts about something we call a digital performance edition, digitale Interpretationsedition, it's in German, and its potential for ethnomusicology. That being said, I'm talking about us. These are the other two guys who unfortunately can't be here today because they haven't been excused for their teaching duties in Germany. Axel Berndt is a professor for virtual linked data spaces in music in Paderborn, and Andreas Münzmay is a professor for musicology with a focus on edition sciences. Okay, just a few keynotes about what we are thinking to do. It's a project which, if it will be granted, be based in Paderborn Detmold. They have a common musicology seminar, and we've got 3 cooperation partners so far besides GHT. That would be the Beethoven House Bonn, together with its archives in both recordings and of course the sources, and the Netzwerk softwaregestützte Interpretationsforschung, which combines or connects researchers which do the software-based performance research. We'd like to create an interface which allows for one-to-one annotations of the score with the respective recordings. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. The idea is to link each note in the score with a specific part in multiple recordings. That's the core idea, I guess. And we are building on some technologies which are out there, of course. MEI is the text encoding language, music encoding initiative. It's called MPM, is music performance markup. It's a code for performances. And we'd like to link the whole thing with features which are already available in Sonic Visualizer. Okay, at the end of this project, there would be a prototypical performance edition. We are thinking about doing it with Beethoven's Eroica variations, Opus 35 for piano, to show what can be done with such a performance edition. That's a very basic scheme of Western art music. You'd have on the one side the composition, creating symbolically represented music, which is printed, and on the other side the performance, which tries to realize what is printed or what is represented in the printed music. I know it's very basic, but the interesting thing is that at least in the Western European tradition, musicology works the same way, right? So we'd have philology on the one side, together with edition sciences who care much about the written sources, and mainly the written sources, and on the other side, the growing field of historical performance studies. I'm not talking about ethnomusicology at this point, but only beneath the chapter of historical musicology. So historical performance studies would add sonic, filmic, other sources to the written sources, which is mainly printed music. And the interesting thing is that from our perspective, these two disciplines are still very disconnected. So we thought what could be a link between those two, and of course it's the digital performance edition. So that's our idea, the basic idea. As I talked about one-to-one annotations or alignments, the idea is that based on the scores, we may build some hypothesis about how performances theoretically should sound if you do it exactly like the score demands you to do. So that would mean that we can do some predictions on the relative pitch, relative durations, the structure of the piece, and so on. And on the other hand, from recorded performances, we can tell something about how it's actually realized within various performance traditions, respectively, or looking at timing dynamics, articulation, things basically that are not written in a score. And it basically comes down or back to a very philosophical question in a way, which is what signifies the specific relationships between text and sound in the process of musical interpretation. That is what researchers could get out of such an edition. Okay, we've got a prototype. Axel Berndt coded the idea of the interface, how it could look like. Maybe we switch off the light for a second. Is that okay? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Oh. It's better, but it's not good? Okay. But it's better. Okay, good. So that's just the first idea. I know it's a lot of information, but the basic idea is you have a pane, like in Sonic Visualizer. You have a pane. In this pane, you right now see a annotated edition of Clifford Kurtz's, which is an English pianist, edition of Beethoven's Eroica Variations. And you'd see multiple layers of his annotations within the score. So besides the printed music, you'd see slurs or like phrase bows, accents, crescendos, and decrescendos, some other phrasing signs, even erased crescendo and decrescendos that are printed down there. And the interesting thing is that these layers have been developed over decades. And within these decades, Kurtzen was a pupil of Arthur Schnabel, so we could predict that he's trying to reproduce a Schnabel tradition here, actually. We could. And then he did a recording in 1970, and the idea is to use this case example to find out what of all these annotations he's actually doing at the end. So now on the left side, you see the music as printed, encoded in MEI, Music Encoding Initiative, so the code. You'd see a G, all these notes, you see they're marked green. So in this G, you can see here, it's a G3. And on the other side, you'd see how it should be performed. And our idea is that when we're done with the project, you'd also see how it actually was performed. That's the idea, the basic idea. Okay, we're building on a lot of methods and tools which are out there already. For encoding, that would be MEI and MPM mainly, and the respective converters. For the analysis, so that's one of the main ideas. You should be able to do all the analysis in the same software. You shouldn't be required to switch the tools in between analysis. So, for instance, between a score tool and Sonic Visualizer, it should be integrated all in one tool. So these Sonic Visualizer features would be within this tool already. You can do it by NPM Toolbox already, but it's it takes much more time right now. So we have to get better at that. And you could even create a MIDI output of the performance, how it's printed in the score, But that's something, yeah, I'll take later on if you're interested in. Talking about the right side, I just said you can do the analysis in NPM Toolbox already. So you can switch between the score pane and a pane which gives you the waveform, a spectrogram, and then you can't see it because of the light, but those are tempo graphs, right? So you see the performance in terms of how fast he's playing at the very moment. We'd like to add to this analysis option or to this pane something which I developed together with Chris Canham from Queen Mary. He developed a sonic visualizer, I think, from the very beginning on at Queen Mary in London. And last year we created plugins which allow for a very fast automated analysis of articulation, timing, but also stuff like vibrato, portamento, which is important for string playing, singing. And I'd like to show you a little excerpt how it works. So that is this basic sonic visualizer pane. It's in plugin, so you have to start it as a plugin, and then you could choose between the treble, single type, strings, the expected note durations, and other qualities like how noisy the recording actually is. He'd give you back, if you worked with sonic visualizers, you know that it works on based on a time instance. So he'd mark 1 point and then give you back some data points for it. So, and these plugins would give you the time code. In this in this example, it's portamento, the portamento type code, pitch of the start and the end note, the portamento duration, the dynamics of the portamento. So a lot of data which are not necessarily important, but they could mean something in the context. I'll show you how it works, how it looks like. In an example by Fritz Kreisler playing Beethoven's violin concert in 1936. It's just a short video snippet of, I think, 2 minutes. So what you've seen down there is something we called the index of a specific portamento articulation vibrato. Yeah, the higher the index, the more bigger the amplitude for the vibrato, for instance, is. It's created by a multiplicative cumulation, I'm sorry. So multiple aspects of the specific vibrato portamento aggregated together. And the idea is to link this function directly into the digital performance edition. So this analysis has been done within, I guess, 30 seconds. Together with the visualization, it was 5 minutes. which is a lot less time consuming than analysis like it's done today manually, of course. Okay, being said that we are trying to build this edition based on the desires of our cooperation partners, I just mentioned what we could imagine to bring, for instance, the GHT in. Christiane Hofer, Klaus-Peter Geilenmiller, and we thought about an online conference which could be about digitalization standards in the first year of the project. So which parts of a digitized historical recording have to be there in order to be good models for the analysis. Together with the Netzwerk Softwaregeschützte Interpretationsforschung, we'd like to talk about which performance parameters are actually important or relevant for the whole performance. And together with Beethoven Haus Bonn, besides using their archives, we are planning on doing multiple workshops with their students. They have an international Studienkolleg, they call it, where people from all over the world come to the Beethoven Haus to do some research on Beethoven. Okay, what is the outcome for the GHT or for the ERA? We think that, and these are ideas of Klaus-Peter Geilenmiller in part as well, that we could use the performance parameters within this edition as a base actually to link multiple recordings of the same piece together. I realized that you guys talked about the musical work in the first instance and then multiple recordings as in the second instance in a way, which I've been a little bit surprised by that, and someone commented on that as well. So we'd have a parallel here already in a way. We could use this kind of addition also by saying, okay, this performer has a specific timing style, and now we could try to gather multiple recordings and discriminate them by the timing style of this specific performer. And there are also some very basic technical parameters. Klaus-Peter Geilenmiller said that it could be helpful to discriminate the playback speed of a historical disc as well. So there are multiple ideas. I'd actually like to bring in only this little perspective as well. I think even though it's focused on Western art music right now, the relationships, the various relationships between the score or transcriptions and recordings could be researched through such an edition in ethnomusicology as well. For instance, we talked yesterday about Bartók's field studies already. I took the Rebetiko example, of course, because this is something I just found in the internet, someone trying to translate Rebetiko into Western art music notation style. Because that's how it's done when people would like to play these popular music, right? So we could ask, does it work actually or not? Or, and this one is something we didn't talk about. Japanese shakuhachi and the tablature for it, or rather to say, I think it's more like a method. Hermann Gorczewski may say something about that. So you see, there are multiple potential areas where we could use something like a digital performance edition, and here's why that is where I would like to end in order to get your thoughts on that. Thank you very much for your attention.